Hi, everybody out there. This is Kelly Puente with the Long Beach Post, and we're here today with Lamar Rush and Eddie Gogui with Long Beach Vector Control. And we're going to talk about one of my favorite subjects, mosquitoes and bugs in general. And as many people know now, and I've seen painfully that mosquito season is here, and we're knee deep in it. I recently had a mosquito in my living room who I call her she because they're females, the ones that she was literally following me from room to room and biting me through my yoga pants and like so aggressive. So want to talk to you guys a little bit about what we're seeing out there right now. First off, we just recently had our first case of West Nile virus here in Long Beach, one of the first in the state for all of the state. Can you guys tell me a little bit more about that and what we're seeing now as far as West Nile and when this typically starts to surface in Long Beach?
Well, seems kind of unusual to have a human case so early. Usually, the way West Nile works is that you will have positive birds first, and then you would have positive mosquitoes, and then people. And
Really?
yeah, and chickens anytime.
Wow. So it's unusual right now to see our first human case this early.
Right, because in the city of Long Beach and LA County right now, we don't have that many positive mosquito pools. The pools are a collection of mosquitoes, and you have to have at least about what is it, 18?
Between for each pool, which are little vials, glass vials that we set our mosquitoes, you have to have no less than 12 or no more than 50 in each one of those mosquito pools. And those mosquito pools are sent throughout all the counties to get them tested, and there's not a whole lot of positive cases with the actual mosquitoes.
So when do we typically start seeing West Nile? When's our usual season?
The usual mosquito season starts in March, and it will go all the way into November.
Okay. But it's early for us to now start seeing West Nile.
Yes,
Any reason
especially when you
why?
don't have any positive mosquito pools in the city of Long Beach, and to have a person already with West Nile is somewhat
A
unusual.
little different, yeah.
Are you guys concerned about that, or what are the thoughts on that we're seeing our first case so early?
Well, we're not too concerned about it right now. We're just trying to keep up with the mosquito counts, meaning when we're setting out traps, which is part of our surveillance program, and we collect those traps, set them out on Mondays, and pick them up on Tuesdays, and we get the counts, and we send those to the state to have them tested for West Nile and St. Louis encephalitis and a couple other viruses.
When we set up the traps that Lamar is mentioning, they're placed in all parts of the city of Long Beach. We have 22 traps that we set up on a weekly. We set them up on a Monday, we pick them up on a Tuesday, and whatever we collect, if we have enough, we'll send it to the state to get tested. For us here in Long Beach, we've only sent out maybe, I think it's, gosh, I want to say maybe 10 mosquito pools, and that's when we send out 10 mosquito pools, again, it's no more than 50 in each one of those pools. So our counts are actually pretty low.
Really? Okay, so we're seeing a little bit lower mosquito count so far this
Yes.
season.
And I'd like to mention too that positive human case is not in the area that we treat for mosquitoes. We have two. We're divided. The city is divided. We have Greater Los Angeles and the Long Beach Health Department. So normally, when we would get a positive case, we would set out traps there, and then to find out what may have what have made what way the woman may or man was exposed to West Nile. So it could be we need to find out what particular mosquito, what species. We need to find out if there's breeding sources around the home in the streets, and that's normally what we do.
Yeah, fortunately for us, like Lamar mentioned, the person who got West now isn't in this part of town that we here at the health department are in charge of treating.
So what we're doing now in our part, we are doing a lot of abatement in areas where in known sites, breeding sites that we have in the city, and we're doing the drains in the streets and all the standing water that we find in the gutters. And
Where
then
do mosquitoes, where would you say the city, if there's a larger concentration in the city, where do you see more mosquitoes in Long Beach?
in our wetlands, perennial wetlands, where there's a lot of tubby grass, and you get a multitude of mosquitoes in those areas.
So we are seeing somewhat fewer mosquitoes so far this season, though, you guys?
Yeah,
Any idea
so
why
far.
any idea why that is? It's maybe less rain or?
Well, I got a theory that there was a lot of rain, and the rain washed out a lot of the trash in the in the storm drains. So normally, when there's not a lot of rain, and there builds up trash in the storm drains, so you get pockets of water underground, and that's throughout the city. And so now with that rain, the drains are clear, so there's not a lot of standing water in the storm drains.
Uh, and so how big of a concern is West Nile in Long Beach? I was trying to think of how many cases we had last year. I think it was a couple dozen, or does Long Beach have quite a few cases every year, or?
Some years, the most we had was back in 19, what is that, 14?
Yeah, about 2014.
2000, yeah,
2014, we had
58 cases.
Oh,
yeah.
and why do you
Since
think?
then, well, that was a time when we had the drought, and people still irrigate their lawns, right? But we didn't have rain, so you would get a lot of stagnant water underground in the storm drains, and not to mention too, a lot of people were putting plants out, potted plants in their front yards with a bowl underneath.
The water catchers.
Yeah, the water catchers, and so people come out in the afternoon, barbecuing and stuff like that, and they're breeding mosquitoes right there in their patio area.
And a lot of them didn't even know it. So those water catchers, although there's very little amount of water in there, if you lift up the plant bases, there will be some stagnant water, and it will be loaded with mosquito larvae. So a lot of the folks in those areas didn't even realize that they were even breeding mosquitoes.
We didn't even realize in our office we have these little bamboo plants that have water.
Yeah, the lucky bamboo.
Yeah, in the office I'm sitting in right now, I was talking on the phone and I look over in the little bamboo dish and there's all these little squiggly mosquito larvae in there, and I'm like, yeah, are those office bamboo plants are pretty bad too, right?
Yeah, that happened, I believe, about 10 years ago. That they were bringing those lucky bamboo plants in.
Not so lucky.
Yeah, that's when they brought in actually Aedes mosquitoes.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to talk about next. My favorite Aedes, but those guys are aggressive. I think the one that was biting me, like she just would, like, I'm like, are you gonna get your fill? Like, how many times are you gonna bite me? Like, they're. Ted, can you tell us about some characteristics of the Aedes that makes them?
Well, what makes them so aggressive is that people are their number one hosts, so they actually feed on people, and they stay nearby. They stay nearby their hosts. Whereas the Culex mosquitoes that we've been dealing with through the years, the ones that carry the West Nile, they're out in the environment, and their number one hosts are birds, and people are secondary hosts.
Okay, so the Aedes, they think originally came over from lucky bamboo plants on plants, and
yeah, and various other ways, but I distinctly remember the
came in the containers.
Yeah, the containers.
The containers, when they opened up the containers, there were mosquitoes flying out, I believe.
Yeah, and since then, the containers are being treated over in the Orient before they come into the United States now.
And when did we start seeing them here, the Aedes?
I would think at least 10 years ago. But now they've reached a point where they're in abundance now.
It started getting bad, I would say, about 2-3 years ago, would you say?
Yeah, about 3 years ago.
Now here in Long Beach this year so far, we've only caught, I want to say maybe 2 or 3 Aedes mosquitoes in the traps that we set. Out of the 22 traps that we set around the city, it's maybe around 2 or 3 that we've only caught. Everything else has pretty much been the Culex mosquito.
So you're seeing fewer 80s then this season. Any idea why?
Well,
You think or
no, usually when the Culex mosquitoes are abundant, and then you'll start seeing the AD showing up later in the season.
oh.
You know, around about August and September, they probably get pretty bad, even more
Oh,
so.
so it's just early. It's still
Yeah,
they're
it's
just
still early for them.
2020. I mean, you know, the mosquitoes got to come out in full force. What
Don't worry,
scares
they'll be here.
are coming. What scares me about the 80s is that they can breed in just like the tiniest amount of water, like a bottle cap or something, or like just like a sprinkle of water. Is that different from other mosquitoes?
No, it could be the same, but they tend to hang around people more so, closer to people because of the fact that they breed on people, and they're gonna bite you all the time. You know, they bite all day and all night.
And that's one of their specific traits is that they bite all day. They can bite during the day. As the Culex, they'll only come out usually at from dusk till dawn. But the 80s will bite all day.
And they typically like to go around your legs and ankles, correct? That's why they've been called like ankle biters.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And they're very silent too. They're very silent. You with the Culex, you're used to hearing something buzz around you, and you start, you know, before you know it, you get bit by an 80s mosquito. You're just scratching because you don't even know it. They're very silent.
And so for the people saying that it seems like a pretty bad mosquito season, we're actually not seeing that many mosquitoes right now yet, but we could see it pick up in the next one.
Yeah, pick up.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I do find it concerning that we found our first case of West Nile virus earlier in the season. Do you guys have any idea why maybe we have an early case of West Nile?
Well, for us, because it's on the LA County side, like Lamar mentioned, what we would do if it was our side of town, we would go and we would start setting up traps in those areas to see if there's a heavy count of mosquitoes in that area. Or we would go and do our community outreach and just find out if they know of a pool that might a swimming pool that might not be being used. And those are our methods when the West Nile or anything is in the health department side.
Okay.
And she could have had a lot of breeding sources in her yard.
What are the signs and symptoms, like the first signs and symptoms of West Nile?
What was that?
What are some of the first signs and symptoms of West Nile?
It's like having the flu, common cold,
Flu-like symptoms,
nausea.
Mm-hmm.
like coronavirus type symptoms.
Just like COVID-19.
It could be West Nile. It could be coronavirus.
It could be, pick one.
Yeah,
Either way, it's bad.
But you know, the difference is the bite. You distinguish that there's a bite from a mosquito. You could talk about flea bites, mosquito bites, and they bite you in different areas of your body. Like you mentioned, the Aedes mosquitoes bite you on the ankles. Mm-hmm. That could also be common from a flea biting you. So.
And the Aedes bites. I heard that the Aedes bites can be even more itchy and swollen, like they're worse because we don't have the immunity to it, or.
Yeah, that's what they're saying. That's why they're so painful, because people aren't in America used to getting bit by Aedes mosquitoes.
Yeah, I had a welt like this big. And it bit through my yoga leggings. I'm like, how is it biting through spandex? It's pretty impressive. And also wanted to ask you guys about another favorite topic, the murder hornets that are supposed to be the second half of 2020, and then we got the locusts coming later, and then the floods and whatever else is coming. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, from what I've read about the murder hornets, that they actually feed on bees.
Yeah, they feed on bees.
There's a problem with bee population.
Could we ever see anything like that in Long Beach, since we have a more dense type city, like what's the possibility of murder hornets in Long Beach?
There's a possibility. Just like this, we didn't think the Aedes mosquitoes would make it here, but now they're here too. So I didn't expect anything.
You're scaring me.
Our job is to try to control them. You can't really eliminate insects, but you can control them. When you control them, you can control the spread of disease. And that's what our job is.
So speaking of controlling the spread, do you have tips for people on how to prevent mosquitoes? Because like, yeah, I didn't even, realize I was totally unaware of those bamboo plants being little incubators till I saw it myself.
And he'll tell you about the houses. You were talking about the screens and all that.
Oh yeah, just everybody's just got out there. Got to be proactive. Make sure you have your screens going. All your screens are correctly placed on your windows. If you have a screen door, make sure they're working right. They're fixed. You don't have any loose ends. As far as plants around the house, you always make sure that if you have those water catchers, which most people have on their bases, always dump that water out and change it out throughout the week. Every week, just change out the water. If you just leave it, you might not see any of the water around the edges, but it's underneath the vases that have the water. Those are things that you could do around the home. If you have any kind of toys lying around or anything that could catch water, if you have a sprinkler system, always make sure to look at those things because, like you mentioned earlier, any little bit of water that's stagnant, and if it's put in a position where it's right underneath some shade and not directly in the sun, will eventually start breeding mosquitoes. So those are things that people can do. And also talking with the community, the neighbors, just making sure everybody's all in. And as long as everybody's all in, you can help the fight.
You really need to be proactive now because, especially with the habits of the Aedes mosquitoes, they love to be close to humans. So if they can find any place in your backyard, they're gonna breed in there.
They're gonna breed.
Because right now we can't really go in people's yards. We can try to educate people a lot, but right now because of the virus, we're not really going to people's backyards. So people are gonna really have to be more proactive. We can send out, brochures and flyers and things like that, but it really helps when people take initiative to look in their own yards because we're gonna be out doing our job in the streets, public areas, every day, trying to keep the counts down, especially with Culex mosquitoes, which right now are a big concern because they actually carry the West Nile. And they may have the potential, I believe, like in places like Riverside, they are spreading St. Louis encephalitis also.
Wow, so that's interesting. If you hear that, everybody, Lamar and Eddie can't go into your backyard these days because of COVID. So that's with vector control not really being able to be as proactive going to people's yards. It's really up to us to be more proactive then. That's good to know.
Yeah.
But if we see evidence of a green pools that are operating, we will send notices to people to get those pools fixed. Because pools are very a big problem when it comes down to breeding mosquitoes.
And what do you do in the case of one mosquito following you from room to room in your apartment? Like, what do I do? Is there any tips there?
You better find the breeding source for the breeding, so you can stop them from breeding. Because the one female is going to die eventually. You may be able to kill it.
Wow. And are you guys seeing any other trends in vector control or anything interesting this year? As far as
well, we've had a case of typhus. That's carried by fleas, typhus.
Yeah. When did we have that?
I think that was about a week ago.
Oh, okay.
So we that's carried by when wildlife like possums, feral cats.
Yeah.
They carry a lot of fleas, and when your pets come in contact with the bedding of a possum or feral cat, they'll bring the fleas into your house, and then you can get exposed to typhus.
Wow.
Symptoms like that are the same thing, just like COVID.
Great. Once again, don't know typhus, West
Nile,
COVID.
Hit and miss with that.
What a year.
Make sure people just, make sure there's no stagnant water around. And if they find something that's out in the environment and that they're concerned of, feel free to give the health department a call. We'll get the address and we'll go check it out. And if it's breeding, we'll treat it.
And how
Well,
common is typhus in Long Beach? Do we typically have a couple cases a year or?
yes, yes, we do. We had how many?
Eight,
8 last year.
eight last year.
Oh, eight
But
last
in
year.
answer your question about the West Nile, last year we only had 2 cases.
Okay, last year we only had two, and so we're a little early now for this year.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So last year we had one a late case in September, a human case, September.
Wow. Great. Well, anything else you wanted people to know about mosquito abatement, what to do, how to be vigilant?
You know, just be proactive. You got to help with the fight. You know, just make sure to help yourself. Always make sure around your home that you don't have any stagnant water. Look, anything will breed. Kids' toys, buckets of whatever, bottle caps from sodas or whatever it is. You know, anything will breed mosquitoes. And as long as you just be proactive, you will definitely help yourself with getting bit all day.
And people have to understand too that we are out here working. We haven't stopped because of the virus. We started early in March, so we can keep these mosquitoes under control. If you start late in the season, you'll have a hard time catching up with the mosquito population. So I want everybody to know we're out there. We started early, and hopefully we'll keep the West Nile under control.
Well, thank you guys for the work you're doing, and everybody be proactive. It's 2020, so we don't want any more diseases spreading
Nope.
this year. Who knows what's going to happen?
Who knows?
Great. Well, Eddie, Lamar, appreciate you being on here and giving us the rundown. And good luck with you guys out there.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.